Yes, hello everyone. Fáilte Rashkity Cúilín Media. Welcome back to another show here on Cúilín Media. This one is another weekend preview show. The club championships have rapidly sped up and people have been dropping like flies left, right and centre. We only have 3 senior championship games taking place this weekend, and that's including all 4 codes. No action at the senior level from the LGFA or the Camogie, but we do have 3 huge provincial finals to look into. We have the clash of Dingle and St. Finbarrs in the Munster Senior Football Final, and then the Leinster double header on the Saturday, starting with Ballyboden against Athy, and then followed up by Ballyhale Shamrocks taking on St. Martin's. In this episode, we're going to run through all of the games in depth, and we're also going to give quick previews as well for the intermediate clashes and the junior clashes, as well as the championship gets further on in depth. I'm joined by Matthew Hurley, the Gaelic Statsman, and Aaron Prendergast, the man behind Gaelic Games Fan TV. Just 2 out of the 4 members of Cúilín Media, including myself. And we are going to dive into the GA news of the week as well. Gentlemen, good to have you with me. Aaron, how are you keeping?
Yeah, good. Yeah, good to be back on. Last week, had the old man flu. So yeah, I was out of service, on the bench or whatever. I'm still tuned into the shows just about. But yeah, no, good to be back on and yeah, looking forward to running through the games as we were saying there. Yeah, it's mad like how quickly the games are. It felt like for ages there we had too many games, and then now we don't have enough to kind of discuss. Like we're down to provincial finals. There's no camogie, no senior camogie, no senior LGFA this weekend. So yeah, there's very little to kind of really run through. But I know some of the lads are saying in the comments there is certainly plenty of talking points and everything else from the world of GA over the last couple of days. So yeah, without question, we'll get into it.
Yeah, we will. Matthew, I was saying there, Aaron kind of put it well. No question about it. The days of stop the bus certainly feel a long time ago now.
They do, yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting weekend considering not just there's no senior LGFA or senior camogie, there's no camogie or LGFA at all, not whatsoever. There was very, very few games this weekend. Obviously there are a few intermediate and junior games that taken my fancy, to be fair, like Ballyboden and Boden both involved from a Cork point of view. And you also have Davidstown, Court and Cúilín, which I will be watching in close interest in the Leinster Junior Hurling Championship Final. The reason being, one of them will play a club pretty close to me in Kilbrittain in the All-Ireland semi-finals. So I will be looking at that very, very closely. That game's on in Hawkfield. Don't know much about the two of them teams, but all I know is Wexford and Kildare are decent hurling counties, and we'll see how they get on. But look, there are some very good games this weekend too. A double header in Croke Park is one of them, live on RT on Saturday, and obviously Dingle and the Bars, which has a lot of narratives, including Mr. Mark O'Connor coming into the Dingle team. Again, I've said this on Cúilín Media over the past few weeks. I'm not particularly a fan of AFL players playing club and things like that. Mark O'Connor, look, it's done now. He can play and things like that. But look, we'll have to see what happens. Will he be the difference maker on Sunday? It remains to be seen. But yeah, it should be interesting.
Absolutely. So we do have a lot of comments in here. Peter Griffin leading the charge. Guys, if you are new to the show, we have a healthy number watching. Get involved in the discussion. Let us know what your highlight of the upcoming weekend is, or what any GA news story really that caught your eye over the last 7 days. Peter here is leading the charge. But first, let's all say a prayer quickly for Liam White, our final member of the pod, not able to be on with us for this episode. He says, Aaron has passed on the man flu to myself. Have a great show, lads. You are missed, Liam. We do wish you a speedy recovery. Hopefully you'll be with us on Sunday for that episode. Peter saying, hey lads, the demographics dilemma facing the GA was the big story this week. Marty Morrissey's profile of South Kerry and Cork City is a real concern. A report was published today. In one area of South Kerry, kids are travelling up to 50 kilometres for amalgamated teams. Interesting in Cork City how the older homes and older families is becoming an issue for city clubs, whereas Middleton with new house builds is thriving numbers wise. It's kind of similar in Dublin, like around a lot of areas where there's a lot of housing developments going in and everything like that. Those GA clubs then tend to see improved results at juvenile level across the years. I feel like it is linked to urban population a lot of the time. I've seen a little bit about this, but I wouldn't be too researched in it now to give a nail my colours to the mass opinion. Would either of you two lads be happy to take this one on?
Yeah, I suppose so. Like, Cork City's quite an interesting one, considering like the north side is it is regressing in so many ways in terms of the numbers and things like that. They go to, as Peter did mention, Middleton has some house builds there in East Cork. A lot of East Cork clubs are thriving, not just Middleton. You look at Sarsfields, you look at Father O'Neill's, you look at clubs like Pride Rovers, Castleline. Those clubs are really excelling, and the clubs in the city are kind of going on a downward spiral. I was kind of shocked from a Cork point of view that Marty didn't cover areas such as Beara in West Cork, because I know from working in the Southern Star, obviously, there is a club called Glengarriff down in West Cork that I was talking to their manager. They were playing in the Junior B county semi-final. They were playing Carrigaline's third team. Now, Carrigaline will be a really big area, obviously, in Cork. They'd be, in the Premier Senior grade and things like that. But this club, Glengarriff, they actually, they were saying they could have gone bust. They could have gone bust because the numbers just weren't there. And that's probably a thing as well in terms of the whole of Beara, not just Glengarriff. The Beara divisional side, like we talk about divisional sides like East Kerry and things like that, Beara used to have a thriving divisional side. Now they haven't entered in the last 2 or 3 Cork Premier Senior Football Championships, basically because there's no numbers in the clubs. Like Beara would have, I'd say, 5 or 6 clubs. They'd usually have about maybe 30 players per club, but the numbers just aren't there. Like Glengarriff, there's nobody there. Obviously, Bear Island, like nobody's on the islands anymore. Not just Bear Island, and as well, obviously, you have islands in Galway, like Inishmore and things like that. I know Sean Mulcairn is a great advocate for that in terms of him playing for a club on the island there. But obviously, nobody lives on the islands anymore. That's the reason is there's jobs now in Dublin, there's jobs in Cork, there's jobs in other cities in Ireland, and people will go to there, obviously, for better. They have better commutes and things like that. Like the traffic's another big thing as well. Like if you're commuting to work in Dublin, for example, and you live in, let's just say for argument's sake, Offaly or Laois, you would take an age going up to the city now, to be honest with you, because like especially from what I'm hearing over the past few days, I know this is probably not related to GA, but in terms of Friday traffic, especially in the evenings coming on, it's absolutely chronic. And honestly, if you're from Offaly or Laois, you wouldn't want to go through that. You'd want to live up in Dublin, or you'd want to live in the counties that actually surround Dublin, like the likes of Kildare, Meath. Then you won't have time to go back to your home club in Offaly and Laois. And I think that goes back to what you were saying about Dublin clubs having players from outside the county, and that's probably another issue in terms of the likes of the Fina and St. Jude's and Kilmacud Crokes and all them thriving. But the reason the people are moving to those clubs is to be closer to their jobs. They don't have time to go home on a weekend or a weekday. They don't have time, simply. And then the local clubs in, let's say, Offaly, Laois, Clare, Westmeath, all them counties, they're now degrading because of it. They don't have numbers. They have 20 players per panel, and it's just not helping them the clubs from the grassroots in terms of games and things like that. Like it is a shame what's happening in Kerry, from what I'm hearing anyway. Players traveling 50 kilometers, like that's madness, absolute madness. I know people are absolutely hell bent in many ways in playing GA, but at the same time, like that's a major cost as well to travel 50 kilometers. What's the solution to this? I'm not sure. Obviously, Marty did do a good job in terms of reporting this on the RT News during the week. But at the same time, it's a very, very hard problem to fix, because once the damage is kind of done, you don't know how to fix it then. So it's very, very tough. And it's kind of a situation where it's very, very hard to pinpoint what you need to do to fix this. But for future reference, for this not to happen again, you need to focus on the smaller clubs in the rural areas and not so much the city. Well, I think the Cork City one, in terms of the north side, I think that's an anomaly in fairness. But rather than focus, say, on the inner city Dublin clubs, let's focus on the clubs on the outskirts, on the clubs on the coast, and the clubs that are probably the fabric in terms of the Gaelic games in many ways. And that probably needs to be fixed in the next few years, or else there's going to be more and more clubs going bust. And that is a shame. It really is a shame.
It's You've said it really, really well there. It is like just a situation of like, this is a government issue. This is something that is like absolutely above what the GA can do about it. This is unfortunately just a result of decades of everything being centered around Dublin. I mean, you look at how the population, how the public transport, everything like that. I remember seeing, Seamus Lahan, like, who makes the funny TikToks and stuff like that. He made one where it was like, oh, we're going to build a motorway system in Ireland. And it was like, we're going to build one from Limerick to Dublin. We're going to build one from Cork to Dublin, Galway to Dublin. And it's like, how about one from Cork to Limerick? And it's like, who'd use that? But it's like, it was gas because you don't realize that as much when you're in Dublin, but like having, moved away for a year from Dublin down the country, like, you do realize much more how much things are centered around Dublin and how much better the public transport is in the capital versus, really down the country. Like, so, yeah, I understand why people are moving to the capital, and Dublin clubs getting players like Cian Darcy going to Ballyboden and like, Shane Walsh going to Kilmacud Crokes. That is a byproduct of what we have right now. And that's been going on in Dublin for a long time. But it is kind of an end result of, a long series of government decisions and everything like that, and how everything is so based around Dublin. But
the funny, just on that as well, like the funny thing is as well, like with the way everything's going, is like you actually have a lot of people now leaving Dublin to live in the country. Do you know what I mean? To live in Kildare, to live in Offaly, to live in Laois. Do you know what I mean? And a lot of people who now live in Dublin are like not always based there, so they're probably passing through. Do you know what I mean? Or like living in an apartment or a hotel or whatever. Do you know, that kind of way? So, like obviously maybe it's a bit further away, but I think a lot of emphasis needs to be placed in the clubs on the outskirts as well for those reasons. Do you know what I mean? Like, because I've had friends and everything who've moved to Kildare and Wexford, and amount of people living down there, and there's like there's not enough hospitals, there's nowhere near enough resources, you know what I mean? So I think that's another reason as well that they need to look into clubs kind of on the outskirts as well, because the populations are increasing there, Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, it's kind of a hard kind of thing to fix in many ways. Like, I get your point, Aaron, on the hospitals and things like that. Like, there's hardly any, let's say, on the southeast and things like that. It is very, very, it's a very hard problem to fix in many ways. And obviously, like the problems we carry with players traveling 50 kilometers to nearest clubs, like, that's absolute madness, as I mentioned before. And the stories about, let's say, a Sean Mulcairn plying his trade in Inishmore and Galway, the ads about that, the ads on RTE, those stories will become even more rare in the next few years if this thing keeps continuing. And obviously, we hope there's more players coming from. Like, obviously, some people do live on the islands, and you have to take that into account and things like that. Whether that be Bear Island in Cork, whether that be Inishmore and Galway, whether that be islands off Clare. There are people that live in different areas as well, and they need to have GA as a hobby as well. So it is kind of a difficult problem to fix in many ways. But yeah, hopefully they can in the next few years. But it's going to be very, very hard to see how they do it in many ways.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It definitely is something that they need to address. Because and I haven't really looked too much into I know, like with the documents and everything else, I haven't kind of looked at like too much into it. Like, I'd be aware of how things kind of go within Dublin, but in terms of outside counties, I haven't really seen too much. But yeah, like there is like there's so much issues across the board, and it really is something that they do need to fix and address, because especially in Dublin in particular, like it is mad. Like, you have a lot of clubs now where you are getting people. Like, I remember we were saying before with St. Jude's from a couple of years ago, like, you're having a lot of lads from the countryside and everything else, but like there's lads from Dublin who are living in the country, the countryside now as well. Like, it's just especially just with the cost of living in Dublin in particular in comparison to other counties, So but yeah, look, hopefully anyway it is something they can look at,
It is very difficult. Peter Griffin saying here, Brian Sheehan made a good point about planning regulations that locals can't build with their for their own families. And yeah, that's a very good point as well. He also said, Peter, here, over 3 million live along the eastern seaboard that account for 18.6% of the total number of GA clubs, and that is definitely something to look at as well. I was just tagging in for Seamus there.
I think we're both trying to add him at the same time. Sorry.
I'll let you take it away, Seamus. Yeah.
Oh no, man! Honestly, I think there's something up with my Wi-Fi. So Matthew, will you take the wheel on the presenting for the rest of the episode?
Sure thing. Yeah. So there is a substitution here in terms of presenter and analyst. So we rarely have this at the podcast, and we will probably have it in future. But these all measures needed and things like that. But the report published today indicates that a 9-a-side team could feature. You have 9-a-side, lads. That's I've seen 12-a-side, I've seen 13-a-side at sea level in Cork or whatever, but 9-a-side.
So that's half the team. Like no, like that, like almost half. Like that's that'd be crazy. I think that'd be crazy.
It would be Seamus. I'll throw that one to you. Like 9-a-side. Have you ever heard that?
No, 9-a-side in Gaelic football. I think maybe I heard of it when people were panicking about the defensive systems and everything like that coming in, but yeah, that would be absolutely terrible. Like the game, could you imagine how gassed out the teams would be, like with the length of the field and everything?
Crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, go on, Aaron.
Yeah, no, I was just saying, like I think 9-a-side is just, I think that's like I get things are in a bad place or whatever, and I get, we need to kind of think of solutions and think of ideas and everything else, but becoming 9-a-side I think is going a bit too far with it. Like that sounds like something someone would say on Twitter, or someone would leave a mad suggestion on TikTok or something, like, let alone from the actual GAA themselves,
alternate history for ChatGPT or something.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, it's absolutely mad in so many ways as well. I think Peter had a comment in here about, lads, your views on the Glynn statement regarding, that's Wallygreen's name, by the way, regarding the 2 weeks extra for the All-Ireland Championship. To be honest, Peter, I haven't had the time to look at this statement, but apparently it's to do better in terms of the club championship structure and all that. I don't know, lads, did you see the statement this week?
I seen it, yeah. Like it's, I do understand it, to be honest, from their perspective. Like especially with the demands and everything else, like of club players and everything else that's happened. But yeah, I think it's just mainly got to do with the pre-season competitions, obviously coming back and starting on the 2nd of January. So yeah, like you do understand it from their perspective. At the end of the day, like clubs are the lifeline of Gaelic games, and there should be an element of priority to clubs. It is a difficult one because it's very hard to fit it all in. Like I get some propositions that some people have said that we should change the calendar around and maybe have the club season during the summer and the county season during winter. But I think the reality is that, like, whether we like it or not, like county football, inter-county football, that is what most people watch. Do you know what I mean? Like that is where all the eyes are. That's where most of the views are. That's where most of the tickets are sold. That's what generates the most money. And like from a GAA's perspective, they want the best possible conditions to make the most, make the best amount of money possible. So they're always going to have it in summer. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, it's look, it's a tricky one because it's like, I think when you start to shift the calendar around, there's then another, something else kind of gets in the way. It's like if you move the club calendar back a little bit, then it's kind of too closer to the All Ireland. They've tried to get rid of the pre-season competitions. Now they've brought it back. There just seems to be a lot of chopping and changing, and I think that's probably the thing that's annoying a lot of clubs as well.
Yeah, exactly. So it is probably a debate that could be talked about long into the night, but we will kind of move on. There was a topic in here for the show. Niall O'Halloran departs the Cork Hurling backroom team, and I'm just reading a piece by Barry O'Mahony from the Echo in terms of this. Obviously, he was part of Ben O'Connor's backroom team, but he's now left the Cork Hurling backroom team even before the season has started. Barry O'Mahony said here on the Echo, that's the Echo Live, obviously Barry O'Mahony, great Cork journalist, by the way. He said Niall O'Halloran has left the Cork senior hurling management after 3 months. The Echo understands the Ballinhassig native was only confirmed as the coach as part of of new manager Ben O'Connor's management team back in September. So that's about 3 months. O'Halloran is widely regarded as a top-class coach. He was seen as a very positive appointment. He was O'Connor's preferred choice to take up the coaching mantle. O'Halloran was Cork minor hurling coach during John Considine's time in charge in the 2018 campaign. I suppose, and there was a comment that Peter put in about this, directed at me, I think it was, about this. Oh, yeah. It says, Matthew, any update on Ben's coaching departing the Cork setup sounds controversial based on the coverage featured by Smaller Fish earlier. Just as a matter of interest for that Smaller Fish, I see the tweet. I don't know what player actually said it to Woody from the extended panel, but if he's talking to Woody about this, it is very, very concerning. I'll throw this one to you, Seamus. Like, the thing is, obviously, I have heard stories. I'm not going to say it on this pod and things like that because obviously we don't know if they're true and things like that. You hear murmurings, obviously, if you're within the county. But I know for certain, like, big players have been dropped from the Cork panel. The likes of Conor Lehan, Luke Mead, you would say, is a very big figure in the dressing room as well. Patrick Hawke has retired. You know of Niall O'Sullivan leaving as coach as well. You have a lot of players coming in for Ben O'Connor as well. Firstly, about the coach, have you ever seen anything like this? Obviously, there was the Mickey Graham thing with Leitrim last year, but that was because he was going to go to Galway. But is Ben trying to change things too soon and too fast? Yes, the All-Ireland final happened. Cork scored 2 points and was shocking, really, in the second half, to put it mildly. But is he changing too much of the team? And then, with the coach leaving as well, it doesn't really bode well before the National League kicks off.
Yeah, I think the thing that I've gathered from Ben O'Connor is that he doesn't mess around. I think if he thinks that you've crossed a line in his book, you're gone. He comes across fairly ruthless, like cut from the Jim McGuinness cloth, the Mickey Hart cloth, that, you know, it's my way or the highway. Like, you're either on line, you're either on my side, and if you step out of line, we can do without you. Nobody is above the team and everything like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's not that much. But then again, here's the other thing. Maybe it is just nothing. Maybe he has just left. Maybe the two of them just couldn't make it work. Maybe there is no fallout per se. But what I will say is so early in, when you knew that, as you said, when you knew that that was the guy that Ben O'Connor wanted, it doesn't look great that he's left so soon after. And Ben comes across to me like he takes no messing, like that. If you're not in line with what he wants, you're gone. And already the Cork panel has been really shaken up. You know, big players, as you said, have left. And I don't think they're in need of too much of an overhaul because, yes, the second half of that All-Ireland final was a catastrophe. But 2 years in a row now, they've got to the All-Ireland final. And on other days, especially the 2024 All-Ireland final, they'd have an All-Ireland medal. So they're not a million miles away. And we know that second half performance does not in any way represent how good that team is. So they're not a million miles away. So to be coming in and shaking up the tree like this, I'm a little bit nervous about how he's doing it from a Cork perspective. But maybe, we don't know. We're not in the camp. Maybe there's a few bad eggs there and he's shaking it up to set things right. We don't know that. Only Ben knows and only the players know. It's really, really, really interesting.
It is definitely, and at the bottom of Barry O'Mahony's article it says, just to re-emphasise, Ronan Curran, Terence McCarthy and William Bigan are part of the new backroom team for the Rebels. They're hoping to bounce back in 2025 after 2 All-Ireland final defeats. Like, Ronan Curran's a player there, or a former player there. He's coached the Bars and he's coached other teams as well. So you imagine he'd probably be the man to step up into that rate, into coaching. But Peter saying an interesting comment in here. Christy O'Connor is inferring the players were not happy with the standard of coaching and went to Ben. Interesting. Cork hurling is a weeping wound, really, really fragile. He's O'Halloran, a Cork native. Yeah, Peter, he's from Ballinhassig in Cork in the Carrydown region. So he is a Cork man, all right. But I'll throw this one to you, Aaron, because this is probably a difficult one. We've seen Patrick Horgan say to our good friend Dan Casey and Sports Joe that the rumours at halftime were rubbish. Pat Ryan has said the same thing as well. But a lot of people have come out questioning this. I think it's absolute rubbish. Just out of the record, I think it's absolute rubbish as well. I think it was just rumours made up because they scored 2 points in the All-Ireland final and trying to make the controversy bigger than it actually was. But do you think, like a lot of people on social media are saying that it is concerning that no player on the current panel at the moment have come out and said, to just wipe the slate clean and said that is rubbish, that what was said that was happened at halftime, that didn't happen at all. Would you be concerned by that? And does that kind of linger above the team? And with this on top of it, with Niall O'Halloran leaving, is that a concern?
I think it is, yeah. Like it's, I do agree with you as well. Like I don't think, like I just don't believe those rumors and everything else. You hear this all the time in Gaelic games, you know, like when something goes wrong. Look, there may have been some sort of disagreement, maybe a full time or something like that, which is normal, especially when you've just been beaten in the way that Cork have. Like there is, you know, at the end of the day, these are only human as well, so there are going to be disagreements. Even when things are going well as well, you know, lads are going to disagree and maybe have arguments and everything else. But yeah, they're certainly not doing a good job, I would say, at silencing those rumours, because ever since then, it's just been one thing after another that you're left to question. Like from Pat Ryan leaving, from the homecoming the day after and everything else that happened with that. You've obviously had, you know, Patrick Horgan as well. And look, you understand what Pat Horgan, he's played the game for a long time. Pat Ryan's obviously had, you know, a lot of difficulty sort of off the pitch as well, so you can understand it from his perspective. But it just seems to be one thing after another. And it is, like, I do agree with Seamus as well. Like Cork could win the All-Ireland next year. Like they've more than, it's like the ability is definitely there. The squad is there. It just seemed to be more of like a mental block last year where they kind of just fell apart in that second half. Do you know what I mean? Like I think we all know they're better than scoring, what was it, like 2-3 points in the opening, you know, 20 minutes or whatever it was in that second half. Like so, like they're far, far better than that. And it seemed to be more like a mental issue than you know, than an ability issue. So it is kind of surprising that they're changing things and swapping things kind of in and out and everything else, and there's changes and everything else, because like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And like for Cork, it's been a long time, this All-Ireland drought, and you feel like it's definitely within reach. Like there does, I don't think there's a, like I know Tipperary won it last year, but I don't think there isn't a Limerick team out there at the, you know, that's going to just dominate All-Ireland for the next couple of years. There isn't a Kilkenny team that's going to dominate. Many people thought Cork were going to be the team that were going to dominate. So, you know, the All-Ireland is there for Cork, but it just does seem that they're kind of tinkering with things a little bit, which look could help them, but I don't know, you know, could easily go the other way as well.
Exactly so, and obviously Seamus had to leave this chat, so it's myself and Aaron taking the reins on this show, but hopefully everybody can tune in and all that. We will discuss the games in a bit, obviously, but we will go on to another story as well. The Sigurdsson and Fitzgibbon Cup draws were made during the week, so we'll start off with the Sigurdsson Cup. So the way this is going, it's round 1, round 2A, round 2B. You get 2 chances basically in the Sigurdsson Cup. If you lose your first 2 games, you're out of the competition. So the round 1 draw was made. So it's TUS Midlands against MTU Kerry, TU Dublin against Dundalk IT, St Mary's of Belfast against Maynooth University, UCD against ATU Galway, Queen's University against University of Galway, ATU Sligo against UCC, MTU Cork against University of Limerick, and the big one, I have to say, Aaron, the champions for the last 2 seasons will be meeting in the first round, Ulster University and DCU. DCU won it obviously in 2025 and Ulster University won it in 2024. Quite an interesting draw there, and just as a matter of interest, obviously it's TUS in round 2A. It's the winners of TUS Midlands and MTU Kerry against TU Dublin and Dundalk IT. The winners of Ulster University and DCU will play the winners of MTU Cork and University of Limerick in round 2A as well. So it is quite an interesting draw there, Aaron. I think the one that jumps off the page, though, Ulster University, DCU.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that'll be an absolute cracker. You know, like especially looking at last season, what DCU were able to do. Like, yeah, we haven't. I don't think any have any of the panels been released yet. I don't think we've had any panels yet, have we?
I don't think so, to be honest. But yeah,
probably, yeah, it's probably too early to speculate in terms of players and everything else because we don't know, you know, the complete ins and outs. But yeah, no, I think that does have the makings of being an absolute cracker. And even looking at it here as well, like it would be so like if whoever wins that game will then either play MTU Cork or UL in round 2A. So like that'll be an interesting one as well. Like so yeah, like it probably, like especially when you look at DCU, like I mean the firepower and players that they have, obviously Ulster universities and everything have been very, very strong in recent years. And yeah, like you have UCD in there against ATU Galway, so that'll be an interesting one. UCD obviously a big kind of powerhouse as well. So yeah, no, looking forward to it. Should be interesting when it comes about.
One player that I think is definitely involved in one of the colleges actually is Owen McElhone for Ulster University. I think he's with them. So that's a big player to have, in fairness. And that is a very good coup to have. But hopefully the Sigurdsson Cup and the Fitzgibbon Cup and all them will get the plaudits they deserve, because they're brilliant competitions in terms of colleges and all that. Just to mention as well, the Fitzgibbon Cup, which is the hurling version of college competitions, they're in groups. So it's so there's 4 groups, and the top 2 in each group go through to the quarterfinals. The group winners get home advantage in the quarterfinals, so that's a big carrot there. So in Group A, you've University of Limerick, who are the defending champions, Maynooth University and DCU. In Group B, you have a Cork derby in UCC against MTU Cork. Joining them is the new boys, Garda College from Templemore and Tipperary. That's in Group B. Group C, you have University of Galway, UCD and TUS Midwest, I don't know why I said that. And Group D, you have Mary I Limerick, SETU Waterford and ATU Galway. Over the last few years, Aaron, University of Limerick, they've won, I think, 3 out of the last 4 Fitzgibbon Cups, so they'll be very, very strong in this. And a lot of the great, exciting Munster hurlers actually tend to go to University of Limerick. I think Adam Screeney's still involved there as well, which is a massive player for them to have, in fairness. But I think, like we talked about University of Limerick winning the last few Fitzgibbon Cups, the Cork derby looks very tasty in Group B between UCC and MTU Cork.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that'll be a very interesting one. And then yeah, like great for Garda College to be in there, obviously as well, and getting the opportunity. Yeah, I think there's some very interesting ones. Like yeah, like looking at Group A, UL, Maynooth, DCU, UL, DCU. I think could be a bit of a cracker as well. Maynooth tend to always kind of produce some strong hurlers and everything else. So yeah, I think there should be some very interesting games there. Yeah.
Exactly. So, and you can't forget Mary I as well, who have done very well over the last few years in Group D. SETU Waterford, a decent side there as well. So, yeah, it should be very interesting. Fitzgibbon and Sigurdsson Cup. Those competitions start, I think, at the start of January. So, the 6th of January, we'll have to see how that all plays out. And there are going to be great midweek games, no doubt about that. So, we will get into the action now, and we'll start off with the senior games, obviously. We'll start off with the Croke Park doubleheader, and we'll start off chronologically with the first game that's there. It's Ballyboden St of Dublin against the Athy of Kildare on Saturday at 4:30 p.m. in Croke Park. This game is live on RT2. So is the second of the doubleheader, which we'll get to in a sec, between St Martin's and Ballyhale Shamrocks. But this game, Aaron, a lot of people have Ballyboden down as favourites because obviously the game's in Croke Park. The game's close to their home pitch. That's fair enough. Can Athy put it up to them?
Look, they definitely have a chance, yeah. Like Athy have been very strong so far in Leinster, and they probably have surprised us a little bit with just how good they have been. Like they've cruised their way to a Leinster final, like many of Dublin teams have done in recent seasons. Like around the middle, they're solid with Kevin Feely. You've got Noel Kelly up top. We've got a lot of very, very strong players within Athy's ranks, and obviously having beaten Naas as well. You know, we've said previously, if this was Naas in the final, a lot of people will be banging the drum on Naas and saying that they have the opportunity and the chance and and everything else. And looking at how Athy have played football as well, like I do think Croke Park, I don't think it's necessarily one of them where a smaller pitch might suit them. Look, maybe if it wasn't a provincial ground, it would suit them a little bit more and everything else. But yeah, but I think they definitely have a chance. Like Ballyboden have equally looked, you know, they look like they haven't really got out of second gear in Leinster. It's just been an absolute walk in the park. You know, even by the standards of a Dublin club in Leinster, you're still thinking, right, there'll be a little challenge here. There's literally been nothing. You know, both games might as well have never happened. Like it was just so comfortable for them. And yeah, you would look at it and think Ballyboden are probably just a little bit more well-rounded, a little bit more experienced in these games as well, with your Pascals and Ross McGarry and obviously Cian Darcy around the middle as well. Like that's going to be an interesting battle between him and Kevin Feely in the middle of the park. Boden probably do have a little bit more. It's an interesting one with Boden though. Me and Seamus have made this point before. Like Boden, hasn't happened this year, but sometimes they do have that, like they have that little habit of flattering to deceive, and like you do wonder, could they take their eye off the ball a little bit? Could they be caught, and could a tie maybe capitalise? I think one thing we're hoping for, and I think Leinster club football definitely needs, is a game, though. I don't think we can have a one-sided match here, and everything else. And yeah, I do think the argument may be that, like, it probably shouldn't be in Croke Park, to be honest with you, because it is going to dilute the atmosphere. I think having this in a provincial ground would have made a lot more sense. I know it's a double header and everything else, and it's a Leinster final, but I think if we had this in a provincial ground, I know with weather conditions and everything else, it's very difficult, and floodlights, it's probably a hard thing to kind of arrange at this time of the year. But because I do think I just think it's going to be a very flat atmosphere, I think, in Croke Park on Sunday or Saturday.
Yeah, Peter saying commenting here about Portlaoise for a double header, and I think that potentially could have been feasible, in fairness, for the hurling and the football. But look, they decided this over the past few years to have the games in Croke Park. I was for it initially, but then just it as you said, Aaron, it dilutes the atmosphere. Number two as well, the double clubs, once they get to an All-Ireland final or whatever, then they're used in many ways to the pitch and everything, and that's a disadvantage to their opponents then, moving in further down the stretch of the club championship. So that is definitely one to consider, and it is madness to have them. Croker Peter said absolutely correct, to be fair, and he was saying no atmosphere as well. So yeah, it is going to be a difficult game for a tie, but at the same time, you have David Hyland and Kevin Feedy in midfield. You have players up front that could do serious damage, the likes of Niall Kelly, who scored 10 points in the semi-final against Port Arlington. You have players there from a tie point of view that can cause damage. Can they do it in Croke Park against Ballyboden and kind of buck that trend, though? Like, how do you think a tie will do? Would you give them a big chance, or just would you put them in as underdogs?
I definitely put them in as underdogs. Like, I think it's probably, it's probably 70-30 maybe in favour of Ballyboden. Maybe slightly less. So I think a tie need to start fast. They need to start strong. And they need to come like roaring out of traps and kind of put Bally. Because look, especially with Ballyboden, have not really been tested really since the Dublin final, if we're being honest, which is a long time ago now. If a tie can come out fast, hit the ground running, win, like just kind of have a bit more work rate around the middle of the field, win the kind of loose balls, the second balls and all that kind of stuff, and kind of set the tempo and dictate the pace of the game, then I think they have a chance. Because Ballyboden could panic. They could panic if they fall too far behind or something of that nature. So a tie just really, really need to be on it. I think the opening 15-20 minutes is crucial, because if Boden, you saw like against Tullamore, like if they just build up a lead and get comfortable, there's just no way a tie will get back into it. And there is a lot of unknowns here. Like, a tie have looked very good in Leinster, but the quality of the opposition has been very poor. There's been no question about that. Look, you'd say the same for Ballyboden. The level of opposition that they've played has been quite poor, but we know a bit more about Ballyboden, having seen them in Dublin a bit more in recent seasons. There is a lot of unknown quantities about a tie. Yes, they beat Naas, but this feels like a game where we're going to really get to know a bit more about their credentials and everything else. But yeah, I think they need to start fast and kind of dictate the pace of the game, and not let Ballyboden kind of control it. I think that'll be the big thing in the opening kind of 10-15 minutes. Exactly.
So the KK Junior saying Tullamore would have been a good venue for the Leinster final. Peter saying here Boden by 5. Yeah, I suppose we'll make our predictions there, Aaron. Yeah, look, I've said it in previous weeks, I don't rate Ballyboden as highly as many other people, but I think they'll have enough to win this game, simply because it is in Dublin, it's in Croke Park. I think they're used to the dynamics of the pitch and everything like that, and they will get over the line because of that. And a tie are an unknown quantity as well, even though they have some fantastic players, obviously Kildare, county quality and things like that. But you're saying Boden will win this game, but do you think it'll be comfortable?
Yeah, I'm going to go with a 4-point win. So I think it'll be comfortable enough. I think it's hard to really know. Like, I know I'm kind of saying about a tie kind of starting strong. I think this might be. I actually think what might end up happening is the opposite, where Ballyboden are very comfortable, and then a tie are kind of just narrowing the score down, kind of in the second half, and making it a little bit nervy towards the end. I think it will be relatively comfortable. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll probably go Boden by about 6 or 7 points, to be honest with you. It could be even more because it's hard to know with this Athy team. It really is hard to know. Look at the second game. This is not involving a Dublin team. It is Kilkenny against Wexford, Ballyhale Shamrocks against St. Martin's. This is on Saturday, obviously in Croke Park at 6:30 p.m. It is live in RT as well. Yeah, it's a very interesting game. This, in many ways, Ballyhale really struggles to get over the line against Ballyboden in the semi-final. St. Martin's were absolutely superb against Naas. They beat Athena, deservedly so, in Chadwick's Wexford Park as well. Interesting game, but I think Ballyhale are going into this as favourites. But are they going in as big a favourites as Ballyboden are in the football?
No, and I think that's because St. Martin's are a great team as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, they have some phenomenal players in the O'Connors and everything else. We saw what they did versus Nafina, what they did versus Naas as well. Like, they brushed Naas to the absolute sword. There was no realms of an upset there whatsoever. It was very, very comfortable. And obviously, yeah, as you said, like with Ballyhale, they weren't brilliant against Clock Ballycolla. Look, you do see this a lot of the time with great club teams, where you can go through your difficult games. They came through difficult matches in Kilkenny. We know, obviously, everything that happened in the Kilcormac-Clocky game, but Kilcormac are a great side. They do have some very good players, and they did push, Ballyhale in certain moments in that game. So I think for Ballyhale going in against Clock Ballycolla, probably thinking, we'll just walk. We'll breeze through this. We don't need to be at our best. And then all of a sudden, before you know it, they're in a game with a couple of minutes to go. But at the same time, they did what all great club teams do. Even when you're not playing well, you just win and then worry about it later. That way. So it's an interesting one. Like, I think Martins have, from looking at them versus Nafina, like, they definitely have a bit more physicality about them this year. They're faster, they're sharper. I think they'll cause, they're a bit more direct than Kilcormac, so I think they'll cause more problems in regards to that. They definitely have a bit more of a physical presence about them. And look, Ballyhale are obviously missing players as well. Like, there's no Adrian Mullen, as we know, with everything that happened there. So there definitely is a chance here, and there is that. I wouldn't be surprised if there was an upset here, because it does feel like with Martins, it is all kind of coming together this year. And although Ballyhale do have that aura about them, I don't think they are the same team as they were maybe 4 or 5 years ago. They have been getting beaten Kilkenny in the last couple of years. I still have Ballygunner as ahead of them in the pecking order, in my opinion, in terms of the All Ireland series. In saying that, though, I probably would still think that they might just edge this, maybe.
Ryan is saying here, St. Martin's have a good chance if they get their matchups right. They probably do, in fairness. And a lot of talk has been about TJ and Owen Cody and how they can influence the game from a Ballyhale point of view. And they are fantastic hurlers. There's no doubt about that. Worth noting as well, Rory O'Connor is a very good hurler, as we've seen in Intercounty for Wexford over the last few years. He got 14 points in the semi-final against Naas, 5 in play. Yeah. Pretty impressive. Who would you say for the Ballyhale side will go on Rory O'Connor? Because it is going to be a very interesting matchup, whoever goes on. And saying that as well, Jack is pretty good as well. He got 3 points in the last game against Naas as well. So interesting matchups there.
Yeah, there is some very interesting matchups. In terms of maybe how the game could kind of pan out and everything else. I'm not too sure, to be honest. Like, there's who would you maybe kind of edge towards?
It's a very interesting one. Richie Reid normally plays kind of a sweeper role, so you have to keep him there. You're looking at the Ballyhale Shamrocks defenders. Like, the thing is, O'Loughlin Gaze, for example, and Kilkenny probably have the best defenders. If O'Loughlin Gaze face St. Martin's, you'd say automatically Mikey Butler, he's going on Rory O'Connor. Potentially Hugh Lauder, Paddy Deegan, all them as well. You look at Ballyhale's defenders, Joey Holden is a very experienced campaigner.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking of him.
Would Joey Holden have the speed for Rory O'Connor, though? That's a very interesting question to answer. Personally, I think a guy that, and I've seen this against Kilcormac-Cúilín, a guy that could annoy Rory in this game, in a good way from a Ballyhale point of view, in a bad way from St. Martin's point of view, Cúilín Corcoran. I think this guy could mark Rory O'Connor because he was annoying the living crap, I would say, out of the Kilcormac-Cúilín forwards in their quarter-final as well. So I think it could be him that goes on Rory.
Yeah, I think so. Like I think like with Joey Holden, like I think he has the intelligence to probably pick up a player of that quality. But as Peter probably says there, it probably is just the legs at this stage. Where you probably can't get your body to move in the same way that it used to. So yeah, probably not Joey Holden in that aspect, and maybe a Richie Reid or something like that, maybe.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. Peter saying you can't see Ballyhale going forward in the All-Ireland series. But the winners play Ballygunner here as well. And a lot of people are talking about Ballyhale and Ballygunner and potentially going to the semi-final. Before we make a prediction, Aaron, do you think St. Martin's, if they could go on and win this game, would they fancy their chances of an All-Ireland? Because you've beaten Ballyhale and you've beaten Navina if best comes to best for them on Saturday. Like, that's two serious sides to beat, in fairness, if it does come to fruition on Saturday. So if they do get over the line, you can't discount them.
No. They'll definitely be fancying their chances then, because you're only two wins away. And obviously looking at the other side of the draw with Loughrea and Slotneil, it's not. I don't think either one of them are as good as Nafina, in my opinion. I don't think they're as good as Ballyhale either. So it probably does. It gives them a massive chance. In if they could get past Ballygunner. But yeah, look, I think you don't want to be kind of looking too far ahead. They've got one juggernaut in front of them right now in Ballyhale, and that's the main one for now.
Peter's interesting saying neither would beat Ballygunner. They have struggled at times, Ballygunner, this year though, and they can't be beat. So
I still think Ballygunner just have another level though. I think they've another level to go. Like even watching them in that game versus like in the Pearshig, where like they were struggling for 50 minutes, and in the last 10 minutes they just stepped it up, by 20-30%, kept that obviously in the SARS game, kept that kind of momentum going in the SARS game. So no, I still think they're the team to be.
Interesting. That's probably a prediction that we'll make in the next few weeks. But do you think Ballyhale could do it as expected, or can St. Martin's put off a shock?
I don't know. Like I'm tempted to make the shock, to be honest with you. I know I've kind of backed Ballyhale. I think maybe throughout the entire year, so maybe I'm kind of bound to keep with them. But I think there is a chance there for Martins. There definitely is. But yeah, maybe we'll go with Ballyhale ever so narrowly, maybe by like 2 points or something.
I do think Ballyhale will win the All-Ireland, honestly. So I'm going to stick with Ballyhale to get the win against St. Martin's. But then again, I wouldn't be shocked if Martins get over the line, because they are a very, very good side. And like, if it's no Dublin side involved, I think anything can happen in this game at Croke Park. I think Martins will get over the line, though. Not Martins. Ballyhale Shamrocks will get over the line. They have an abundance of talent. If they can put a leash on Rory O'Connor, I think that will be the deciding factor in the game. But we'll have to see what happens in that game, no doubt about it. Ballyhale, TJ man of the match. We'll have to see what happens in terms of that. The final game on Sunday, that is the senior anyway. We'll move on to intermediate and junior in just a sec. So you Dingle against St. Finbarrs in FBD Simple Stadium on Sunday at 1:30. This is the Munster Senior Football Championship final. Interesting kind of pair. Dingle have never won a Munster Championship, as far as I know anyway. The Bars apparently are going for their 6th title. So I think this is a difference in terms of historics and things like that. Dingle were in the final 2 years ago, coincidentally against a Cork club, Castlehaven. They lost on penalties. The Bars... The last time they were in this kind of predicament in terms of the All-Ireland, they went all the way to the All-Ireland semi-finals, losing after extra time to Kilcoo. So you'd imagine they're probably more battle-hardened, if any ways, than Dingle. But then again, this Dingle team have proven that they're deserving champions in Kerry. So it is going to be a really, really good game, and difficult enough to call.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be very, very even. Very, very hard to call. Like, Bars probably, from what I've seen, have got a bit more about them physically in terms of around the middle with Ian Maguire and players kind of moving forward like Stephen Sherlock and everything else. Whereas Dingle, obviously, look, they've Mark O'Connor, within their ranks, who's sticking around obviously for the Munster Final, and maybe the All-Ireland series if they do progress through this weekend. Dingle probably have a little bit more in terms of attack, in terms of the Gainies. I think they've just a little bit more with the likes of Dylan Gainey, Paul Gainey. They've got a little bit more firepower. probably have a bit more of a goal threat as well than the Bars. But yeah, like where's the game taking place actually?
I'm glad you brought up that discussion, Aaron, because I was going to ask you this next. Peter saying in here, Christie, whoever that is, was saying Limerick was an available venue, but Dingle didn't want to play there. Just as a matter of interest, the game is on a Thurles in FBD Simple Stadium. And he's saying after their final loss, that was against Castlehaven there before. But he's saying here, Peter, the Thurles pitch is under pressure. Now, the thing is, if they were offered Limerick, Dingle, a lot of people are complaining about Dingle playing in Thurles and things like that. If they were offered Limerick and they rejected it, I have no sympathy for them because it's either Limerick or it's either Thurles. It's a neutral venue. It's a Munster Final. It's as simple as that. So like they were offered Limerick, apparently. That's according to Peter now. His words, not mine. I have no sympathy for Dingle after that, to be honest with you. And no sympathy for Kerry in general. Look, the game's on Thurles. It's a neutral venue. It's as simple as that. Christy O'Connor, Peter Griffin saying, But yeah, apparently the Thurles pitch is under pressure, Aaron. So, and Dingle refused to play in the Gaelic grounds. Honestly, could this game be called off?
Yeah, like it's just with this time of the year, like you saw with the Scottstown game, obviously a couple of weeks ago, and obviously the replay to what a cracker that kind of turned out to be. But yeah, like it could very well, and that's why I was kind of asking, because I was thinking if this game is a dogfight, it probably actually suits the Bars more, I think. Do you know what I mean? If this game becomes like a bit of a slugfest and conditions are bad and everything else, like I think it suits the Bars more, because Bars probably have more of those kind of type players than Dingle. I think Dingle have more like crafty, kind of silky players with the Gainies and everything else. Look, they do have, hard workers and warriors within there as well. But I just think the Bars will be have a little bit more in regards to that. So yeah, but yeah, it's an interesting one, all right, with conditions. We'll obviously keep an eye. I don't know what the conditions are meant to be like in Thurles like this weekend, but yeah, it could absolutely play a part. There's no doubt about it.
Peter's saying here the winter grain of rice. I don't know who is he saying. The wet wintry pitch will definitely suit the Bars. We'll have to see over that. But you mentioned the Bars are more physical, and I probably agree with you. The likes of Brian Hayes, the likes of Ian Maguire, Jamie Burns, if he does play, is a very physical player as well. And you have some pretty players around the middle. Plus, you have a very good goalkeeper kicker with the ball in Darren Newman as well, who he's called from the Cork team and has done very well throughout the club championship. But the caveat to that, Mark O'Connor, obviously an AFL player, really big figure. Mortimer Murphy from the Irish Examiner or the Irish Independent confirmed during the week, well, Dingle's words obviously to Mort, that Mark O'Connor is available for this game. That's a big kind of boost to Dingle. But what I was seeing in the article as well, Barry Dan O'Sullivan, who's a Kerry inter-county player, is unavailable for this game. He's definitely out. He's injured. That's a big blow. But at the same time, Mark O'Connor, how will he fare up to Brian Hayes and Ian Maguire? But then again, Brian Hayes could play full forward. Who's to know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's going to be a very interesting battle. Look, especially with Mark O'Connor, like he's a phenomenal athlete, and everything else. He's got that power. He's rangy, great on the ball, great at fielding the ball, and everything else. So yeah, it's going to be a fantastic battle. I think that's going to be the most interesting part of the field, and one of the most interesting matchups probably of the weekend. When you're seeing both of them kind of toggle out, you're talking about one of the best players, obviously with the Cork hurlers, but we know the physical presence that he has, and then Mark O'Connor as well. So yeah, it should be really interesting. And look, whoever wins that battle could potentially win the game. Because as we were saying previously, I think possession is going to be crucial here in these kind of conditions, keeping the ball and everything else. You're not going to want to give up the ball too easily. You're not going to want to get turned over in these conditions as well, because you get punished. So I think it's going to be a really, really interesting battle. It's huge, huge for Dingle to kind of keep Mark O'Connor obviously around, because look, it is their opportunity and their chance. We know how awkward maybe Kerry club football is and how hard it can be to kind of get to this stage. So I think when you get to this level, you need to try and take your chance. Look, they had their chance a couple of years ago and missed out to Castlehaven. So they'll want to kind of give their all for this one as well.
And one more thing before we get into a prediction, because there is some excellent two-pointed kickers on both sides of the field. For Dingle, you have the Gainies, you have Dylan, you have Paul, potentially Conor Gainey as well. For sure, for St. Finbarrs, obviously, you have the 2-point king himself at the moment in Stephen Sherlock. You have John Wigginton Barrett. You have these sorts of players. Ricky Barrett is doing well in the corner forward position as well. It's going to be interesting to see the type of forwards in both sides of the field again. But at the same time, like the Bars have good defenders like the likes of Billy Hennessy. Dingle have good defenders, of course, with the likes of Thomas Sullivan. So that'll be interesting too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like there's some tremendous players like across the board really for both teams. And yeah, like I suppose if conditions can allow it, like it will definitely, you know, it could be a game of the weekend. You know, we could be looking at, I know there's not too many games on this weekend to be fair, but you know, you could be looking at a Scottstown O'Leary's kind of situation where it's an absolute cracker because, you know, hopefully the pitch is going to hold out because we know this could be a cracker and this could be a game. You know, you're sitting down to watch on a Sunday and is a brilliant game of football because, as you said, with Stephen Sherlock, with Brian Hayes, with Mark O'Connor, with the Gainies as well, like you have some phenomenal footballers on the board there. And especially when you look at recent games and what both of these two teams have been scoring as well. Like it's not like either of these two are defensive teams or anything like that. You know, they do like to play front football. They do like to attack. I think it's just with conditions, it could kind of make the game a bit of a slugfest. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. Now. It's very hard to call.
It is very hard to call, no doubt about it. But I'll give you the first dose of it, Aaron. Who do you think will win?
Yeah. Well, look, I backed Dingle to win Munster, you know, in earlier videos and everything else. Well, once we kind of knew the teams that were in there and Newcastle West didn't win it. So yeah, I think I'll stick with them just for having a bit more firepower in terms of their attack and the Mark O'Connor influence as well. But I think it'll be very close. Like I'm going to go with a point. I think even extra time could come into it.
You know what? I think Thurles or Limerick or wherever the game is, it probably will be Thurles. I think that will suit the Cork clubs more than the Kerry clubs, personally. And the thing is, obviously, Dr. Croke's beat Castlehaven, but it was in Dr. Croke's home pitch in Lewis Road. People may not remember that. But I think the neutral venue would suit actually the Cork clubs. And the Bars, if it's a sticky day, as you mentioned there, Aaron, you have Brian Hayes, you have Ian Maguire, you have battlers in that team. Plus, you have a 2-pointed extraordinaire in Stephen Sherlock there as well. Dingle could do it, but I think the Bars might get over the line just about. I think it'll be about both 1 or 2 points. Again, it could be extra time. We'll have to see over the next few weeks. So the Bars were in a battle a few weeks ago with Clonmel Commercials. I think that will stand to the Bars in this game as well, but we'll have to see what happens. Before we wrap up the show, obviously there is intermediate and junior games, obviously with the games reducing. We'll talk a bit about the intermediate and junior because the All-Ireland semi-finals and things like that will be in the next few weeks. We'll start off with the Leinster Hurling finals in intermediate and junior round. So in the Leinster Intermediate Hurling Championship Final, it is Danesford of Kilkenny against Ratoath of Meath. This is on at Park Talton and Navan at 1:30 p.m. on Sunday. And obviously the winners of this play Upperchurch Drumban of Tipperary in the semi-finals. And when you look at the likes of Turin from Mayo and the Ulster champions, I think it's Carrick Moore, I think, from Tyrone on the other side of the draw, you would fancy that side of the draw with Upperchurch, Ratoath and Danesford being one of the favourites for the Intermediate Championship. Ratoath, it's brilliant for them, obviously, being the top tier Meath club in the Intermediate Championship in this one. Danesford, Kilkenny clubs usually do well in this competition. Just to mention as well, the Leinster Junior Hurling Championship Final is between Clane of Kildare and Davidstown Court and the Cuddy of Wexford. This is on Mongard Park in Hawkfield. That's at 1:30 p.m. on Sunday. So two of those games, Aaron, who do you fancy? I know we probably don't know much about these teams, but looking at them, just shot in the dark, to be honest with you, I'd probably go Danesford to win the intermediate, and I'd probably go Davidstown Court and Cuddy to win the junior.
Yeah, like without kind of having too much knowledge, like I know Ratoath, to be fair, have made tremendous strides in recent seasons in terms of hurling down there, and they do have like a good few of their Meath hurlers kind of within their ranks as well. So, do you know what? Just for the crack, we'll go with Ratoath to maybe cause the surprise there. You probably go with Clane versus Davidstown, we were saying.
Clane versus Davidstown Court and Cuddy, I think it is. Yeah, that's the junior.
Yeah, probably go with Clane because again, Kildare hurling is has very much been on the rise there. So we'll go with Clane.
She's be delighted with the Clane prediction, Aaron, because the semi-finals of the Junior Championship in the All-Ireland then would have a Kildare club, a Sligo club, and a Donegal club joining Kilbrittain, the Cork club. So if
there we go, yeah,
we'll have to see what happens in the next few weeks. Yeah, it should be very interesting. But looking as well, there's 3 other games as well. Yeah, there's very few games this weekend, lads. So we kind of have to mention it. Just to mention the Ulster Intermediate Football Championship finals between Cúilín of Cavan and Glenullen, I think that's how we pronounce it, from Derry. This is on St. Hearders Park, Clones at 1 p.m. on Sunday. Just a quick prediction on this, Aaron. I'm going to go probably Cúilín, because Cavan clubs usually do well for some reason in the Intermediate and Junior Championships. But what do you think?
Yeah, no, I'll probably agree with you as well. Yeah, like I think it should be a very interesting game in terms of how it kind of pans out. Is Paddy Bradley is he with Glenn?
I don't know, to be honest.
Oh, yeah, I don't know if I think he, I don't know. I know he was in the intermediate final. He might have been playing on the other team, to be fair. So we won't, I won't kind of go into that in too much detail. But yeah, no, we'll probably go with Cúilín as well. Yeah,
definitely. So, and there's 2 other games. Obviously, it's the Munster Finals as well as the Bars and Dingle. There's 2 other in the other grades as well. So the intermediate, they're both Cork against Kerry once again. So starting off in the Munster Intermediate Football Championship final, you've got Gaeltacht of Kerry, obviously, against Athy of Cork in Mick Park in Rockhill. That's at 4 p.m. this Saturday. And then in the Munster Junior Football Championship final, you've Ballyboden from Kerry and Boden and from Cork. This is on in Mallow at 1 p.m. as well. Just a bit of context in those games. The intermediate final is very, very interesting. Gaeltacht obviously beat David Clifford and Paddy Clifford's team, Fossa, in the Intermediate Championship in Kerry. They have the likes of Brino Cúilín in this team. They're from a very good, passionate area, I would say, in Kerry. Interesting name on their team sheet as well. Aidan Walsh, a former Cork footballer, is midfield for Gaeltacht. He moved on there, obviously, because close to the family and things like that. But Aidan Walsh will be playing against a Cork club. Athy, they've done very well, in fairness, in terms of football and hurling. They have the likes of, the closest inter-county player I could find from an Athy point of view is Paul Ring, if anybody remembers him. Cornerback in the under-20 team, a decent enough player. Matthew Bradley is a very good scorer. So is Luke Casey. Watch out for him. He's a good goal scorer on this team from Athy. And the game's obviously in Rockhill. The intermediate or the junior final, Ballymagilligan from Kerry and Boden from Cork. Like Ballymagilligan are the 3rd tier of Kerry football, Boden are the 5th tier of Cork football, so the gap is pretty big. But at the same time, Kilmurray of Cork beat Fireys from Kerry last year in the same competition. So who's to say there won't be a shock in this game? I think the main kind of headline out of this hour, though, is I think Kerry fans probably have a right to complain over this. Ballymagilligan have, I don't know, over an hour drive, maybe 2-hour drive to this ground in Mallow. For Boden, it's 12 kilometres. This is nuts. Like, I mean, it's absolutely nuts. Obviously, I want Boden to win the game, but that's nuts, isn't it? Look at those intermediate and junior finals. Who would you fancy?
Yeah, like it is. Like it's crazy. It's crazy, really. Like, I mean, I don't really know. Like, if there is other venues maybe that they could have potentially maybe look towards. Yeah, like, look, I'd probably go on Gaeltacht to be honest, to win the first one. I think they have a little bit more firepower, like what you've said, and I remember seeing them kind of knocking about and everything else over the last couple of years at intermediate level and everything else. So you probably would back them. And yeah, look, for the other one, it's a complete shot in the dark, but maybe with the fact that they are a little bit closer to home, we'll go with Boden.
Fair play. Thanks very much, Aaron, for getting the name correct, I would say, in Boden there as well, because a lot of Dubs might get the Cork names wrong. Oh yeah, I've got Leinster names wrong. Things like that over the last few years. Peter saying in here, great preview, lads. Thanks a million. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the games. See you Sunday evening, and see you, Peter. And see thanks to everybody that commented on this show as well. Thanks to Aaron for popping on. Thanks to Seamus as well for popping on for the while he was on this show as well. We'll be back for a review show on Sunday evening to review the 3 games plus the intermediate and junior games as the All-Ireland Club Championship takes a dive into the latter end of the championship. Thanks to everybody that viewed the show, and thanks to everybody that liked, commented and subscribed and all that to Cúilín Media. Make sure you view the show on Sunday evening, and until Sunday evening, we'll see you then. Take care and enjoy the games at the weekend.
instinct, baby. Follow your instinct.